Hello and welcome to this week's Wildlife Matters podcast. As the seasons change, nature responds in remarkable ways. Autumn brings a bountiful harvest, a time for reflection, and an opportunity to plan for the coming year. Summer visitors like swallows and house martins prepare to leave for the warmer climate of Africa, whilst puffins and gannets venture out to spend the winter at sea. Hedgehogs and bats are fattening up for hibernation, while badgers and foxes ensure that they are in prime condition to mate. Yes, it's our autumn equinox nature storytelling special, live from the campfire at the heart of the dark woods, where we will share two nature and wildlife-based folklore stories. This week's Wildlife Matters Mindful Moments comes to you from the ancient woods of Ebernoe in Sussex, where we will listen to some of the wildlife that calls this enchanting ancient woodland home. But first, let's take a look at the wildlife and nature stories that have caught our attention in this week's Wildlife Matters Nature News. Hello and welcome to this week's Wildlife Matters Nature News, where we take a look at the wildlife and nature stories that have caught our attention this week. Our first story is a conservation success as the pine marten returns to mid-Wales. Once widespread, pine martens are now rare in Britain, but recent collaborative conservation efforts are helping to bring them back again. They are notoriously shy, but pine martens are quietly reappearing in the Welsh woodlands. Matthew Davis, a volunteer for the Vincent Wildlife Trust's Pine Marten Recovery Project, has monitored their return to Wales since the beginning of the project. Matthew told Wildlife Matters, "Occasionally I catch a glimpse of what seems like a chocolate brown cat sprinting into the undergrowth. But they're so fast, it's easy to miss them." Despite their elusive nature, sightings of Britain's largest tree-dwelling mammal are increasing. There is now a growing population in mid-Wales, and 18 Scottish pine martens were released into the Forest of Dean. Before the Pine Marten Recovery Project began, the last record of a Welsh pine marten was a roadkill found near Newtown in 2012. Matthew told us, "The old boys in the pub recall seeing pine martens around here in the 1970s. It's the perfect habitat for them." The Vincent Wildlife Trust translocated 51 adult pine martens from thriving populations in Scotland to mid-Wales, where the species had been on the brink of extinction. This was the first large-scale carnivore recovery program in Britain, resulting from extensive research, careful planning, community engagement, and the tireless efforts of scientists, conservationists, and of course, volunteers. Initially, the pine martens were radio tracked to map their movements and territorial range. Once the radio collars came off, monitoring continued through remote cameras and scat searches, with local volunteers playing a vital role. The pine martens have bred every year, and the Vincent Wildlife Trust continues to monitor and record them with the help of cameras and volunteers. Matthew is often found heading into the woods at Quinmanach in the Rhinog Mountains to follow their signs and to check his cameras. Matthew's work is challenging as he regularly scales the steep slopes amongst the ancient oaks to retrieve footage from his cameras, aiming to gather insights on the population health and behaviour. And he has recorded several pine martens, each identified by its distinct cream bib, and currently tracks 3 males, 2 females and 3 kits. Matthew told us he once witnessed a pine marten leaping from a tree to catch a vole. It was magical and made all the effort worthwhile, he said. He went on, when I find droppings in the area, I place eggs or other bait a few feet up a tree, safely out of reach of foxes and badgers. I wait for the martens to return, then set up my camera and hope for the best. Matthew sends all of his footage to the Vincent Wildlife Trust headquarters, where the team tracks the distribution of the Welsh pine martens. Project manager Dr. Jenny McPherson told Wildlife Matters that the team is cautiously optimistic that a self-sustaining pine marten population has now been established in mid-Wales, which is cause for much celebration. It's good to hear about pine martens being re-established in mid-Wales, thanks to the work of volunteers like Matthew, and Wildlife Matters will be bringing you more pine marten updates from England very soon. Our second story this week is a Wildlife Matters article about the migratory birds that you should be looking out for this autumn. As summer transitions to autumn, it signals a new beginning. As the leaves change colour and fall, and the wildlife in our gardens, hedgerows and woodlands changes with the season. Bird populations also experience significant change. With the cooler weather and fewer food sources, summer visitors such as swifts, swallows, cuckoos and puffins migrate to warmer climates, but autumn and winter bring a different array of birds. New species appear attracted by the berries and insects available during the colder seasons. And Britain has some stunning native thrushes, such as the blackbird, song thrush and mistle thrush. But autumn also attracts their northern European relatives, the redwings and fieldfares. Try listening for these birds calling to each other on clear autumn nights as they arrive from Iceland, Russia and Scandinavia after their daring journey across the North Sea. You may not always see them, but you will certainly hear their calls. Every autumn, around 700,000 redwings arrive in Britain, and they will stay through till spring. Their red and nutty brown upper parts and speckled breasts often lead to confusion with song thrushes. But to help you identify them, look for the cream stripe above each eye and the flash of red under their wings. Fieldfares, on the other hand, are much larger than thrushes. Look out for their cool grey-blue heads, prominent black and white spotted breasts and rich brown wings that have a distinct purple sheen. Fieldfares will often arrive in October, sometimes arriving in massive flocks. Bramblings are another bird to watch out for in autumn. These short-beaked birds migrate from northern Europe, Scandinavia and even Russia. They resemble chaffinches with brown, white and orange hues and can be spotted feeding on the ground with other finches. Brambling are sociable, forming flocks of thousands that may include some local chaffinches. But when they take flight, you'll notice their bright white rump, which helps them blend into the sky on an overcast day. Goldcrests are present in the UK throughout the year, but their numbers swell dramatically in autumn and winter as more of these tiny birds arrive on the east coast. Their ability to cross the North Sea is astonishing. Weighing about as much as a 10p coin, goldcrests are Europe's smallest birds. Their impressive migration has fascinated people for centuries, even giving rise to myths explaining their autumn journeys. And folklore once claimed they hitched rides on the backs of woodcocks, another migratory bird from mainland Europe that appears around the same time. So next time you spot a goldcrest, consider tipping your hat to these incredible little birds. Every year, thousands of waxwings arrive, often in what's known as an eruption or during a waxwing winter. Their numbers can vary widely, mainly because their migration depends on the size of the berry crop in their native northern Europe. But when the waxwings do arrive, you'll spot them even in urban areas. Keep a close watch if your garden or street has rowan, crabapple or cotoneaster trees, as these are truly seasonal delight for these birds. These striking birds are instantly recognizable with their sleek light red plumage which shines so smoothly that it almost looks waxed. You can easily recognize a waxwing by its punk-style crest and black eye mask. But it's not just their looks that are unique. Waxwings eat so many berries that by late summer and autumn, some of the fruit ferments, leaving the birds a little bit tipsy. The only native swan in Britain is the mute swan, but during winter, hooper and berex swans migrate from Iceland and Russia, arriving with the first chill winds. Hooper swans, named after the loud honking calls, are the larger of the two species. Their bills are large, wedge-shaped and coloured yellow and black. Most people see them as big white birds grazing in fields. Thanks to their large and strong wings, they can fly non-stop from Iceland to the UK. Although berex swans are smaller, they are still impressive birds with more slender build and daintier bills marked predominantly by black rather than yellow. They are truly remarkable for their ability to journey immense distances, travelling from Arctic Russia to the shores of Britain. We hope you enjoyed our short story, which includes some of the autumn and winter bird visitors that you might see this autumn. Our third story today is from Thames Valley Police and concerns illegal wildlife crime, which was believed to have been taking place in the Berkshire town of Hungerford. The Thames Valley Police Rural Crime Task Force reported that two vehicles, a Subaru and a Honda CR-V with a registration plate beginning YG56, were involved in the incident. In this illegal wildlife crime, wild animals are dazzled by bright lights and are then shot or have dogs set upon them. Badgers are often the intended target of these criminals, and Badger Trust identifies illegal lamping as a badger crime, stating that shooting badgers is against the law. They explain to Wildlife Matters that lamping typically occurs at night and uses bright spotlights to freeze wild animals, which are then shot or attacked by dogs. The practice is linked to other wildlife crimes like badger digging, hare coursing and deer poaching, with serious animal welfare concerns and ties to organised crime. Badger Trust advises people to recognise, record and report any evidence of badger persecution by reporting the crime to the police and recording it on the Badger Trust website. You can do this for any concerns that badgers are being harmed or injured, and we strongly suggest that you do, as wildlife crime is once again on the rise in England and Wales. And that has been this week's Wildlife Matters Nature News. It's hard to understand what some people get from persecuting wildlife and setting dogs onto badgers, foxes, hare and deer. The local community has been vigilant and quick to report, and Thames Valley Police have responded quickly and positively, which means there is a higher chance of catching and prosecuting anyone involved in these horrible crimes. It is good news that the pine marten has re-established itself in mid-Wales following the project headed up by the Vincent Wildlife Trust. Wildlife Matters spent a night with pine martens in the Galloway Forest in the southwest corner of Scotland, and you can go back and catch that episode in series 5 of the podcast. And we will be heading to a couple of new release sites in England in the coming weeks. We'd like to hear about any sightings you have of the birds featured in our Migratory Birds article, which we have summarised for this week's Nature News. Please do share your pictures and stories on our social media or email them to us at Wildlife Matters HQ. You will find our email address in the show notes. And now it's time for you to join me in the ancient woodland, where we can sit on a moss-covered tree stump and enjoy the soothing sounds of nature on this beautiful late summer afternoon in this week's Wildlife Matters Mindful Moments. The little wren was certainly the loudest bird in the woodland this morning. At least, I believe it was a male, as he was very vocal and clearly unhappy about something in the hedgerow. However, try as I might, I couldn't see what was disturbing him. The wood pigeons seemed oblivious, while the rooks and the carrion crows perched high in their rookery at the edge of these old woodlands were unperturbed by the wren's distressed cries. And now it's time to head to the heart of the dark woods and get the campfire going, ready for you, our guests, to join us for some live nature storytelling. We invite you to participate in the Wildlife Matters Autumn Nature Storytelling Special, celebrating the changing of the seasons in this week's Wildlife Matters main feature. Welcome to the woodlands. Find a space around the campfire and get yourself a drink, maybe something to eat, and settle down and get ready to join us on a storytelling adventure as Wildlife Matters celebrates the start of autumn with a storytelling special. As the days grow shorter and the air becomes crisper, we approach the autumn equinox, also known as Mabon or Albon Elfed in the Druidic tradition. This day celebrates equilibrium, marking the moment when day and night are in perfect balance. 12 hours of daylight, 12 hours of darkness. It's a time for reflection, gratitude, and preparation as we transition from the warmth of the summer towards the chill of the winter. In British tradition, Mabon is a celebration of nature, the harvest, and the changing seasons. The festival takes its name from the Welsh god Mabon, symbolising youth and the promise of life and renewal. In Old Britain, this time of year was essential for gathering in the harvest and giving thanks for the earth's abundance. Albon Elfed, meaning the light of the water, reflects the significance of the natural world to our ancestors. communities would come together to celebrate the successful harvest and prepare for the leaner months ahead. The balance of light and dark on this day also serves as a reminder to find balance in our own lives between work and rest, light and shadow, and action and reflection. Mabon encourages us to prepare for the winter months, not only by stocking up on food, but also through inner preparation. This includes taking stock of the year, reflecting upon our achievements, and setting intentions for the rest of the winter and the introspection that brings. Practically, ancient peoples would use this time to store food, to strengthen their homes and ensure their communities were ready for the challenges of the darker months that lie ahead. Spiritually, it is an opportunity to harmonize our internal world, mirroring the natural balance of day and night. There are simple ways to incorporate Mabon into your life. Inspired by ancient traditions and modern practices, give these traditional autumn activities a try, which will help you and others to reconnect with nature. Firstly, why not host a meal for friends and family? This is a lovely way to celebrate the season and reflect on themes of balance and gratitude. You should always include seasonal fruits and vegetables, such as apples, squash, pumpkins, and root vegetables. Apples, in particular, represent the cornucopia, or the horn of plenty, the symbol of abundance. And after every meal, or whenever you get the chance, take a walk in nature and use that time to reflect on balance and change in your life, mirroring the natural balance of day and night. Bring nature into your home by decorating it with autumnal items such as leaves, nuts, berries, and candles. This can serve as a centerpiece for your reflections and on letting go. Consider those less fortunate than you. Mabon is a time to give back by donating to food banks or volunteering in your community, fostering the traditional spirit of sharing the harvest, and bring mindfulness and meditation into your daily routine. As the nights grow longer, use the equinox to reflect on balance and change. Focus on the transformations in nature and how they mirror your own life cycles. And lastly, make time for stories. Listening or telling stories brings people together and unites them in a shared experience. Wildlife Matters believes we are all storytellers and that stories are a constant thread that run through all of our lives. Whether you watch the latest Netflix blockbuster or read a novel from your favourite author, you are learning new ways through stories and folklore, which is the way our ancestors communicated through story. Before the modern ways we all use to communicate today, many of which are just decades to maybe a couple of centuries old. But folklore stories can be thousands of years old, or maybe even just written last week, with the knowledge gained from previous stories. Every story should be shared, and I hope that you go on to share today's story with others. You may recognize the theme of this story with a cast of new characters that relate to where we are telling this story. With you around a campfire in the dark woods of West Sussex. So, if you are ready, then let's begin to share the ancient tale of the hedgehog and the fox. The leaves were turning golden in the trees, and the fox could feel the autumnal breeze on his fur. He shivered as he thought, summer's fading from these woodlands. Never mind, I will cheer myself up by finding a tasty snack, he said to himself, and he began to sniffle and snuffle among the bracken and the tree roots. A couple of shiny black beetles scuttled for cover, and a field mouse hurried down her hole as the fox's nose sniffed and snuffled its way through the undergrowth. And then, suddenly, he caught the scent of something warm, something tasty. Fox stretched his legs, and he leapt into the air with a familiar, full, foxy pounce. And he landed upon the strange-looking creature. Ouch! Shrieked the fox as he quickly leapt away from the now tightly curled spiky ball. That hurt, you spiky thing, cried Fox indignantly, licking his hurt paws. Well, it serves you right, you horrid beast. Why did you jump on my back like that? Because I'm hungry, said the upset fox, and you are just the right size for my midday snack. But I didn't know you were covered in jaggedy prickles. Well, of course I'm covered in prickles. Don't you know who I am? Said the muffled voice from deep within the prickly ball. The fox looked closely at the talking, spiky ball, and he sniffed the air. No, I've never smelt or seen anything like you before. What are you? Some armor-plated rabbit? Or a spiky-coated squirrel? The rolled-up beast began to shake with laughter. No, I'm not any of those. I'm a hedgehog, you silly fox. But Fox was none the wiser. What's a hedge frog? He said. The ball of prickles vibrated with giggles. Hedgehog, she said. Let me introduce myself. I am the cleverest, fastest, most beautiful animal in the whole of this woodland. Fox laughed loudly. How could a bundle of spikes be the most beautiful animal in our woodland? Look at me. I am slender. I am sleek, with fiery red fur and long, strong legs. I'm by far the fastest animal in this woodland. You could never outrun me, hedgepig. You're way too small. The hedgehog let out a low, grumbling sound from within her tight orb of spikes. How dare you insult me, you chicken thief? I could beat you in a race any day. Fox rolled onto his back, waggling his paws in the air, and he barked a long, hysterical laugh. You are so funny. Let me see your legs, hedgepig. I bet they aren't even half as long or as fast as mine. I'll show you my legs, the legs that will beat you in a race, Mr. Fox. But first, you must promise not to eat me. Fox grinned, flashing his sharp white teeth. All right, Hedgie, show me your face and legs, and I promise not to eat you yet. The hedgehog uncurled her soft, furry tummy and stretched her pointy black nose forwards, pushing out her strong little paws. The fox sniffed curiously at the brave little creature before him. Then he saw her stout legs, and he collapsed in another fit of giggles. Oh my, you look at your tiny legs. Your feet are like mouse's feet, and you only have short, stumpy legs that could never win a race against me. The hedgehog furiously spluttered with anger. Oh, yes, I could, you big-headed fox. I challenge you to a woodland race. When Fox finally managed to stop howling with laughter, he said, Right you are, Shorty. Let's race down to the pond, over the hill, around the woods, and back to the big ash tree. First one back is the winner. Just a minute, Furface, said the hedgehog. I don't want to take advantage of a hungry animal who hasn't had his lunch. Go and find something to eat. Rest and recharge your strength, because you will need it. Remember, I am the cleverest, fastest, and prettiest animal in this entire woodland. I will meet you back here before sunset when you're fed and rested, and then we can race fairly. The fox yelped and laughed at the confident hedgehog. Okay, Stumpy Legs, but it's you who needs all the help you can get. You don't stand a chance of beating me. The hedgehog set off into the trees to find some food for lunch and a pile of dry leaves for an afternoon nap, while the fox collapsed into another fit of giggles. As the sun began to set, the fox skulked across the clearing in the wood toward the big old ash tree, feeling fed, fresh, and ready to race. The hedgehog ambled through the clumps of grass and wildflowers before sitting on a tree root. Are you ready then, Mr. Fox? She asked. The fox grinned, revealing his pointy-toothed smile. Of course I am, Hoggy, ready to show you that my speed and stamina are the best of any animal in this woodland. And with that, Fox stretched his paws and his legs, showing that he was indeed ready to run. Some of the woodland birds had gathered in the trees, but no one was getting ready to go to roost until after the race. In a tall oak tree to the right sat Tawny Owl. She looked down at the hedgehog and the fox, as if amused by their banter, and in her hooty voice she said, Are you ready, runners? The fox and the hedgehog both nodded. An owl said, Okay, then, on your marks. Get set. Go! Fox leapt forward onto the path leading down to the pond, galloping as fast as his paws would carry him, while Hedgehog trotted away from the start line, looking very happy with herself as the fox disappeared into the distance. As the fox sprinted towards the duck pond, the long-legged heron looked up, startled as the fox came towards her at high speed. What do you think you're doing, Fox? You will ruin my fishing. The fox skidded to a stop in front of the water. I am in a race with the hedgehog, said Fox. Have you seen her pass by here? The heron said she hadn't seen Hedgehog, and Fox thought, oh, that's good, I'm in the lead. So I have time for a quick drink from the pond. I must stay hydrated when running this fast. Fox smiled to himself and sneaked a look over his shoulder to ensure the hedgehog was well behind him. I can't even see the little prickly slow coach, he laughed out loud. And as he did, the hedgehog emerged from behind a clump of reeds growing next to the pond. But I'm right here, Fox, she said. Well, the fox nearly jumped out of his skin when he saw her. How, Fox spluttered in surprise. How did you get here first? And he sat down with shock. I told you I was the fastest, said the hedgehog, and she grinned as she trotted away towards the standing stone hill. I must crack on, Fox said to Heron. I've got a race to win, he called as he disappeared along the path to catch the hedgehog up. He caught up with her after a couple of bends, and when he did, Fox jumped over the hedgehog, and she watched as he bounded over clumps of grass and tangled tree roots as he charged up the steep grassy slope, and the hedgehog smiled to herself as she just kept trotting along at her own pace. Fox's heart pounded and his tongue lolled out of the side of his mouth as he raced towards the top of the hill. He was already getting tired. When he reached the old standing stone at the top of the hill, Fox paused to catch his breath and peered down the hillside. Surely the hedgehog would still be nearer the bottom. He could see no sign of her, and he said, I have never run up the standing stone hill so quickly, as he puffed and he panted. Fox thought he must be in the lead. There was no way Hedgehog could have sprinted up as fast as he had. "Is that what you think?" said the Hedgehog calmly from behind the ancient upright stone. "I've been sitting here for at least 5 minutes, admiring the beautiful sunset. Take a look. Isn't it pretty?" Fox was speechless. "How on earth did you get here first?" It's just my natural speed and stamina," smiled the Hedgehog. Although he was panting heavily and really needed a rest, Fox had no time for watching sunsets or to recover his breath. He jumped up onto his paws and with a pounce, he set off at top speed back down the hill towards the woods. He glanced over his shoulder to see if the speedy Hedgehog was behind him, but she was nowhere to be seen. Fox slowed his pace slightly as he felt his legs turn to jelly and his heart pounding as if it would burst out of his chest. The fox's body really ached now, but he said to himself, I must run. I must beat the Hedgehog." And that was all he could think of. As he turned the corner by the pond, the fox could see through the clearing in the woods the big old ash tree in front of him. I'm nearly there," he gasped, trying to muster the energy. Fox had to really push his aching limbs towards the tree. His heart still pounded in his chest, and it was pure adrenaline that was driving him forwards towards the ash tree. But Fox wasn't looking where he was going, and he tripped over a fallen branch. He couldn't stop himself from tumbling head over heels before he skidded face first over the finishing line, and with his nose pressed right up to the roots at the bottom of the big old ash tree. As he lay there, panting and unable to speak, a small black nose and two tiny black eyes were looking directly at him from the roots at the base of the tree. "Hi, Fox. What kept you?" asked the calm and collected Hedgehog. Fox gawped, unable to speak, and after what seemed like an eternity, he finally opened his mouth. "I don't know how you did that. I have never run so fast before, and somehow you still beat me," the fox sighed. And in a low voice he said, "You won, Hedgie. You have beaten me, and you are the fastest in this woodland." Hedgehog smiled and winked at the exhausted fox. "Let this be a lesson to you, Foxy. Never annoy a hedgehog again. You never know how they might beat you next time." And with that, the defeated fox dragged himself away from the old ash tree, heading for the sanctuary of his den. Once Fox was gone, the hedgehog called out to her family, who had been returning from their various positions around the racecourse, and she thanked her sisters, brothers, aunties, uncles, and cousins. And together, the hedgehogs celebrated well into the night, because it's not every day a hedgehog gets to outrun and outsmart a crafty fox. And that is the perfect place for us to end this story. We hope you have enjoyed our storytelling today. We share folk stories at the equinoxes and solstices each year on the Wildlife Matters podcast, as our primary focus is on wildlife and nature. But if you enjoy our storytelling, you can follow us on our Nature Storyteller podcast, where we share traditional folk tales and stories we've written around this campfire in the dark woods of West Sussex. Often live, sometimes recorded in our studio, our stories are, of course, nature focused and inspired by being outdoors. And just like the Wildlife Matters podcast, Nature Storyteller is proudly independent and free to listen to with no adverts or promotions. We release new stories every month, and the latest story is available now wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for The Nature Storyteller. Thank you and good night. I hope you enjoyed our stories celebrating the changing of the season. And in our story, we adapted a classic tale to our woodland setting. We're sure you recognised it, as many countries have their own versions with a different cast of characters, whilst preserving the storyline. Whilst it's unconventional for us to depict the fox, one of our favourite wild animals and the heart of our logo, as the one outsmarted, we felt that the fox and the hedgehog were the perfect characters for this story. We hope you enjoy our occasional nature-based storytelling here on the Wildlife Matters podcast. For more nature-based tales, tune in to our sister podcast, The Nature Storyteller, which releases every month on the third Sunday, sharing a diverse range of nature and folklore stories. Thank you for joining us today. Wildlife Matters will return in 2 weeks with the final episode of Series 6, a World Wildlife Special on pangolins and my experiences working with the most trafficked wild animal in the world. It's an episode that you won't want to miss, so make sure to subscribe, follow, and like and share wherever you get your podcasts. Until then, stay curious, wild ones. This is Wildlife Matters signing off.